Hey guys, bear with me if I'm trying to talk fast, but I'm trying to get this over like faster, but as well give you a big story. So when I went to high school, I went to Bountiful High School for my sophomore, junior, and part of my senior year. My junior year, we moved to a school district where Woods Cross was the school, which was actually my rival school. So anyway, so my little brother had to go there for his sophomore year, which was my junior year. So he had to go there again. They kept saying there's no room at Bountiful, so he had to go there for his junior year as well, which in turn was my senior year. My father said, well, I don't want him going to a separate high school than you do, so you're gonna have to go with him. So I turned around and had to go to Woods Cross, which was my rivalry high school at the time. So that was my second high school, and this was maybe about like a quarter of the way in of the school year. So long story short, my parents bought a house down in Pleasant Grove. My father was spending some time fixing up the house, and guess what? The only kid he wanted to come live there was me. And I wonder why. Once again, we'll get to that story later on. But he only wanted me to come live with him and fix up the home and go to school down there. So after about 2 or 3 months of Woods Cross High School, where I hardly knew anybody in my neighborhood, I had to go down to Pleasant Grove High School, where I was dropped off right on time and I was picked up right on time. There was no kind of leeway. It was just me and my father in this, and I wasn't 18. I couldn't do anything. So, yeah, so I went to Pleasant Grove High School. At Payson High School, things, which I'll get to at another story, didn't quite work out with my cousins and I and my family and my dad and his brother and all this stuff. So cops were called and we were kicked out, and we had to immediately make a decision. And my dad, for some reason, had been wanting to move to New Mexico. Don't know why or what there was there, but he wanted to move to New Mexico. So after just a couple, day or two of searching, I don't know, I think we went to a motel or something. We moved all of our stuff we had. And so anyway, so we moved down to New Mexico immediately with no jobs intact, nothing. We just moved down, and there we settled and found a home in Rio Rancho, New Mexico. So mind you, I had Bountiful, Woods Cross, Pleasant Grove, and then Payson, and then Rio Rancho, where I had about 3 months left in my high school year, which I'll get to that at another point. But I had 3 months to graduate, and I graduated with a bunch of people I didn't know. I was looking to Bountiful High School has this thing called the Senior All-Night Party, which both of my older brothers did. And I looked forward to do a lot. And suddenly I not only wasn't getting able to do that, but I was just graduating with people I didn't know. So that was a bit rough for me. So my first story of when I tried to break free was when I lived down in New Mexico. My main point was to get back to Utah. I didn't care how, I didn't care what, I just knew Utah was the place to go. So let me fix this. My first attempt is I was kind of talking to this boy I knew back in Payson High School, who we liked each other and were kind of like a thing, but at the same time not a thing because we didn't ever do anything. So we were talking and chatting kind of when I lived down in New Mexico, and he was willing to help me out of my situation and get back up to Utah. But they were kind of broke themselves, so they didn't really have that type of money to just fly somebody up. But anyways, he was willing to try. So what happened is after I turned 18, so it was early March because it was shortly after my 18th birthday, I packed up all my stuff, and not packed up all my stuff, but I packed up a bag, and I decided that I was going to walk to the airport. So walking to the airport, I walked, I believe I remember when I looked at it later, it was about 12 to 13 miles in the middle of the night with just a backpack. And I remember stopping at this gas station, and these dudes were like, what are you doing? You're a young girl walking out here with a bag on your back at 4 in the morning. And I kind of told them, so they gave me a little bit of money for the bus ride. So they told me if I went across the street and waited for the bus, it could take me to the airport, so I didn't have to walk anymore. So I did, and it was early morning. I honestly don't even remember what time. But here I am, talking to on the payphone to this dude dude that I was talking to back in Utah, and him trying to figure out how he can get the money to help me out. Sure enough, on the phone, I turn around and I see my father standing there at the top of the stairs, like, because obviously I hadn't gone through security or anything yet, just standing there looking at me. So he's just looking at me, angry face, like. So he comes over, and he was with one of my brothers at the time, and like I said, like, this was just kind of up some stairs in the main lobby. Like, I hadn't gone far, I hadn't had a ticket, I couldn't get through security, I had nothing. I remember actually a lady telling me, like, because I was trying to beg for money, and she said, why would you ever come to an airport broke? And I just wanted to be like, mind your own business, like, help me out or not, it doesn't matter why I'm here, because I had a valid reason to be there with no money. So sure enough, he grabs me by the wrist, full on grabs me. People don't apparently realize what's going on, don't care, don't see, I don't know. But he grabs me by the wrist, and we walk back to the truck, where he puts me back in the back seat, and I'm scared to death, and he drives back home. So we get back home from the airport, and what happens is I get locked in his bedroom, and no phone. So I am there contactless. This is in Rio Rancho, New Mexico. Nothing happened for a while after that. Next, within about a year later, I think we lived down there, so that was like 18, 19, until I was about 20, so about 2 years. The next year we moved to a place called Edgewood, where it was this just small town. So anyways, so my mom and brother both worked at this restaurant, again, together, out in Albuquerque, so the main area. And so it was about a 40-minute drive from where we were at, and there was really no bus route, nothing like that to get out to Albuquerque from Edgewood. So I remember one day I broke down to my mom, and I told her what was happening. I told her what he was doing, and that I was extremely suicidal, and I didn't know what to do. So she gets a hold of my grandma, and she buys me a ticket somehow, and she says, don't tell anybody. So at this time, my phone was still taken away, probably, I don't know, something else, but, or I knew he could GPS it, I don't know. But anyways, my mom had got a hold of, like, this little, like, Wi-Fi phone, so you could connect to Wi-Fi, so I downloaded a texting app, and that was my communication. So anyways, she had got a hold of my grandma and booked me a ticket on a Greyhound bus from Albuquerque to Salt Lake City, Utah. So I said, Mom, I have no way of getting down there. So guess what? One night when she was going to work, we both distracted my father in the backyard, and she had me jump in the truck when she was going to work, and she took me and dropped me off at the station and said, don't ever tell your father that I did this for you. Pretty much hugged her, kissed her, said goodbye, love you. So I saved my farewells, and she just said, kind of lay low till your bus comes here. So I did. So I went into the bathroom, and she texted me on this wireless phone and says, hey, she's like, they're out looking for you, which was like my dad, my brother's fiance. Like, I don't think they realized what was going on, but they maybe just thought, like, more of concern, where was I at? But somehow they thought to look that I was in a Greyhound station. So sure enough, my mom said, they're heading to where you're at. Lay low. So I went to the bathroom, and I stood on a toilet seat with the door locked forever. And sure enough, my sister-in-law, who's now married to my brother, came in and looked around the bathroom. And just because I remember just hearing through, like, my mother told my dad, or like my dad told my mom that she went in there, whatever. So yeah, I lay low in the bathroom until it was time to get on the bus, and eventually they left. So they left, I got on my bus, and the first trip was, I don't remember how many hours. It was 30 hours total, but we arrived in Denver, and that was like the layover part. And so I remember it was late at night, and we were pulling in, and about a quarter mile down the road, there were these dudes beating up this like other guy, and I just remember so vivid, and I was just so scared. I had no money, no food, and here I was about to be 12 hours in this freaking place in the middle of the night with dudes beating up another person down the road. So yeah, I was feeling good. So I remember I went into the woman's bathroom, and I slept in one of the nursing chairs that they had for the moms back there. So I slept in the chair for 12 hours. I mean, Yeah, roughly. Like, I stayed in the bathroom the entire time. They called my bus, and here I am, heading through Colorado back into Salt Lake City, because it went up and then over. And I get a text from my mom that says, your father knows where you're at. And this is roughly, like, I don't know, an hour and a half, 2 hours before I arrive in Salt Lake City. And she goes, your father knows where you're at. I'm just like, what? She goes, yeah, your father knows where you're at. I don't know how. I don't know how. You're the only person that knew how. How would he know what kind of, like, bus schedule and this and that? So, sure enough, I don't know what to do. And roughly, like, 10 o'clock the next night, that, like, following day, the following night, I arrived into Salt Lake City, Greyhound station, and as we pulled up, there was my father and one of my brothers standing there, just waiting. I had no other escape, but they were right there at the exit door. So like I said, literally we're standing there. So I just wanted to hide in the back of the bus. Like, I figured they would come to a sweep, something, like, I don't know. So here I go, just walking off the bus, just hopefully, I don't know, he didn't catch me, he didn't see me, nothing. All of a sudden he grabs me and says, where do you think you're going? Had nothing. He says, yeah, you're coming back home. I don't know why you did this or pulled this. So this man drove 8 hours once he found out I was on a Greyhound and stayed at that station for who knows how long just to wait for me. Like, so long story short, again, he forces me into the vehicle and it was late at night and I passed out. And next thing I know, the mid-morning, we were back down in my home in New Mexico. So that was story number 2 of how I tried to escape after 18. I was 18 and then like 19 years old. The third one is, so randomly, my dad out of nowhere decided to move to Tennessee. New Mexico wasn't working good enough for him, so next family plan was Tennessee. So we moved out there and we moved to a little town called Winchester, in which now looking back, I'm extremely grateful for it because I met a lot of friends out there and it's the chain. It's like the saw that broke my chain, whatever you want to call it. So I got my notes. So anyways, so we moved out to Winchester, Tennessee. So out there, my mom and brother and little brother, older brother, little brother, all worked at this restaurant, this little family diner. And I honestly don't even remember what it's called. But so as they worked there, they needed another like server. So pretty much it was like my mom, my brother, and my little brother was a dishwasher. And then there was a cook and a manager. So my brother and my dad, for some reason, was against me working a job. Well, for some reason. So my oldest brother convinced him to let me have a job. So I, am forever grateful for him for that because it's what started it all. So he convinced my dad that it's no big deal. So on nights, it would either be my mom and my brother being the servers, my brother and I being the servers, or my mom. Oh, no, there was one other girl, I believe. But then, or it was like my mom and I. And I remember on nights that it was my mom and I, my father would come in and he would watch his clothes and just watch over everything we did. So again, I was 20. So what I was saying is I was about 20 years old at this time. And it was really weird because when we closed down the restaurant, when it was my mom and I, he would come in and watch us. He would just watch us close down and just wait till we were getting out of there. We didn't live far, but it was just weird because he would come watch his my mom and I was 20 years old. So one night the cook asked me, he's like, hey, something's weird, something's up. And so I broke down and I told him, I said, this is what's going on, this is what's happening. And he says, no, that's effed up, I'm gonna get you out of that situation. So I said, are you really? So we were texting for a while, and one night he texts me and he's like, okay, 2 a.m. I'm gonna come and I'm gonna save you. So I said, okay. So 2 a.m. came, I had a small bag packed, I was ready to go. He came, he picked me up, and I went to his house and spent the night, where we were both up for pretty much the entire night, just anxious and worried of what the morning was going to be like. So one of the more ironic things is my little brother happened to buy weed from this dude. So he knew where he lived. But backing up real fast, my older brother said, well, the only person she would know is the cook. So 1-to-1 goes, my brother bought weed from him, so he knows where he lives, and so they knew where I was at. So come around 11 o'clock the next day, my dad and about two or three of my brothers, I honestly don't remember that part, showed up at this dude's house and beat the shit out of him. And while my brothers continued to beat the shit out of him, my dad physically forced me by my hair and my arms into the back of his truck. I didn't voluntarily go. I wasn't ready to go. And here he was. And guess what happened when I got home? Once again, I was locked in his room with no phone at 20 years old. So sitting here by myself. Later on, I got my phone back. I had to suck up and kind of do the things. It took maybe like a week or two. I honestly don't even remember. I was so scared. I just needed to talk to this person. Like, I wanted to make sure he was okay. And so pretty much he told me first thing, he's like, yeah, I'm not going to go through that again. Sorry. And then more and more as we talked. And then a little bit later on, he's like, yeah, no, I need to get you out of there. So this time he comes, he picks me up. And I get over to his home, again, with nothing. And this time, we went to the police firsthand. And we told him what my father looked like. And we said, this is the man, he's trying to take me. Like, do not let him down the street. So, cop came and stood pretty much like 2 houses down from us and just watched. So, I am extremely grateful for that officer. So, because that cop was willing to sit and watch, I was able to safely sit there for about 2 weeks or so. We occasionally went to his parents' house to get out, and but I was too scared to go anywhere. So my brothers kept trying to drive by and knock on the house and convince me and give a message from my father, like I cared. So they tried to tell me things, and I just shoo them off, and they'd be like, well, he's going to commit suicide, he's going to do this. And I was like, well, he told me all that stuff too. And guess what? He's still alive today. So he would just kind of give them the same little threats, like go talk to her, go see if you can get her to come back, like full-on cult stuff, trying to get me to come back, messaging through my brothers. Eventually we told the police, and they just blocked family vehicles from coming down the road. So after they were blocked, more and more I started to get confidence. And I remember my brother one time texted me and was like, hey, just come talk to your father one time. And I was like, okay. I felt a little bit like more confident. I was ready to text people. I knew more people to contact, and I was like, if I was in danger, I was ready to call 911. And so my oldest brother comes over and picks me up and was like, you can have some stuff if you come and talk to Dad, which I had no clothes, nothing. And so I was like, okay. So I come over to the house and I start packing my stuff up out of the room, and he's on the bed just trying to talk to me and tell me how in love he is with me and this and that and how I shouldn't leave. And I just said, no, like, I am done with you. I am over this. I am leaving. And I remember walking out of the hallway, and he just took everything I had and he threw it. So he throws all my stuff down like the hallway away from me. And I'm just like, at this point, I was like, you know what? Screw it. Like, I don't want anything from you. Just let me out. So I think I had a pair of shoes in my hand still. So I walk out to the truck. Or no. Back up. So I have a pair of shoes in my hand. And I remember walking down the hallway, and he grabs my wrist and he stops me. And he's like, you're not going anywhere. And I grabbed my hands and I dug him into his throat. Like, seriously ready to strangle this man. And I just go so hard and made cuts. And I just said, you don't control me anymore. So, like, that legit happened. Somebody I've always been scared of. I just physically stood up to. And so, in that moment, he came and he spat in my face. And, I mean, not he came, but he was, like, right there. And he spat in my face. And he chewed tobacco, so it was just disgusting. So I go out to my brother's truck or whatever, and he takes my shoes that I had in my hand, so he just threw them across the yard, and he's like, you want him, go get him. And I was like, nah, I don't want shit from you, bro. And so once again, I slammed the door. My brother was I think he was scared, didn't know what to do, but he took me back, because I told him to take me back to my home where I would call the cops. So my father just said, get her out of here. And sure enough, like a week after that, my family moved back to Utah. And that's the moment that I became officially, physically free. So anyways, we went to, I went to Pleasant Grove High School, like I said, where I was picked up and dropped off like immediately, right on time, no leeway. And of course we were just down there, and it was, like I said, less than a month. And sure enough, the financing fell through on our home. And I don't know how my parents got the keys for the house, but they did. And so anyway, so we couldn't finance this home. And all this work we put in and this time and this month I spent in this random high school that I thought at least I'd graduate at. Nope, so it was just a bunch of other random people I didn't know. Next, after the housing fell through, we moved in with my cousins down in Santa Quin, Utah. At the time, I think they had as many kids as we did, so like 7. So they had like 7 or 8, 9 people. And so we lived in their basement for a while where I attended Payson High School.